Wisdom, the final frontier to true knowledge. Welcome to Wisdom Trek, where our mission is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. Hello, my friend. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, your captain on our journey to increase wisdom and create a living legacy. Thank you for joining us today as we explore wisdom on our second millennium of podcast. This is day 1463 of our trek, and our focus on Friday is future technologies and societal advances. So we call it Futuristic Fridays. My personality is one that I've always been very future-oriented. Since my childhood, I have yearned for the exploration and discovery of new technologies and advancements for the future. I grew up on the original Star Trek series, and even today, while I'm just finishing up my 64th revolution around this sun, I still dream of traveling into space. Each week we'll explore rapidly converging technologies and advancements, which will radically change our lives. At the same time, these topics may sound like something out of a science fiction novel, but each of the areas that we will explore are already on their way of becoming reality over the next couple of decades. To keep our theme of Ask Gramps, I will put the weekly topics in the form of a question to get us on track. So this week's question is, Hey Gramps, I hear a lot about virtual reality. Can you share your insights about where the virtual reality market is today and what we can expect over the next decade? So today's subject will be virtual reality, what we can expect. Last week we focused our second part, how exponential technologies are impacting food production. This week we are switching our focus to virtual reality and the road from deceptive to disruptive. I am using some of the information mentioned in Peter Diamandis' blog and book, The Future is Faster Than You Think. In 2016, venture investments in virtual reality exceeded $800 million, while augmented reality, which is also referred to as mixed reality, received a total of $450 million. Just a year later, investments in AR and MR and VR startups doubled to $3.6 billion. Today's major players are bringing VR headsets to the market that have the power to revolutionize industry as well as countless others. Already, VR headset sales volumes are expected to reach 98.4 million by 2023, according to FutureSource Consulting. Beyond headsets themselves, Facebook's $399 Oculus Quest brought in $5 million in content sales within the first 2 weeks after it was released in spring of 2019. While companies like Niantic had a $4 billion valuation, Implorable a $2 billion valuation, and Unity a $6 billion valuation, all exceeding the valuation of $1 billion in recent years, which means that the VR space is massively heating up. Today we will dive into a brief history of virtual reality, recent investment surges, and the future of this revolutionary technology. So what is a brief history of virtual reality? For all of history, our lives have been limited to the laws of physics and mitigated to our five senses. But virtual reality is rewriting those rules. It is letting us digitize experiences and teleport our senses into a computer-generated world, where the limits of our imagination becomes our only break on reality. Considering all of recorded history, it certainly has taken us a while to get here. Much like artificial intelligence, the concept of VR has been around since the 1960s. In the 1980s, we saw the first release of VR when the earliest consumer-facing system began to show up. In 1989, if you had to spare $250,000, you could purchase a device called the iPhone, which was EYE phone. It was a VR system built by Jaron Lanier's company, VPL. It was actually Jaron Lanier who coined the term virtual reality. Unfortunately, the computer that powered that system was the size of a dorm room refrigerator. At the same time, the headset required was bulky, awkward, had cords attached to it, and generated only 5 frames a second, 6 times slower than the average television of that era. By the early 1990s, because of these things, the hype faded, and VR entered a 2-decade deceptive phase. Through the 2000s, the convergence of increasingly powerful game engines and AI image rendering software flipped that script. Suddenly, deceptive became disruptive, and the VR universe opened for business. What is this disruptive phase which has caused surges in VR investment? In 2012, Facebook spent $2 billion to purchase Oculus Rift. By 2015, the magazine VentureBeat reported that in an arena that typically saw only 10 new entrants a year suddenly exploded to 234 new companies. In June of 2016, HTC announced the release of its business edition of the Vive VR headset for $1,200, followed 6 months later by their announcements of a tetherless VR upgrade. A year later, Samsung cashed in on this shift, selling 4.3 million headsets and turning enough heads that everyone from Apple to Google to Cisco and even Microsoft decided to investigate VR. A phone-based VR showed up soon afterwards, dropping the barrier of entry as low as $5 with Google's Cardboard. By 2018, the first wireless adapters, standalone headsets, and mobile headsets hit the market. Revolution-wise, 2018 was also when Google and LG doubled their pixel per inch count and increased the refresh rate from BPL's 5 frames a second to over 120 frames per second. Around the same time, the system began targeting more senses than just vision. Hero's 360 omnibinaural microphone suite captures 360 degrees of audio, which means the immersive sound has now caught up with the immersive visuals. Touch has also reached the masses, with haptic gloves, vest, and full body suits hitting the consumer market. We are now even seeing the release of scent emitters, taste simulators, and every kind of a sensor imaginable, including brainwave readers, all trying to immerse us in this virtual reality. The number of virtual explorers continues to mount. In 2017, there were 90 million active users, which nearly doubled to 171 million by 2018. YouTube's VR channel has over 3 million subscribers, and that number is growing. By the end of this year, 2020, estimates reach that the VR market will be a $30 billion market, and it's hard to find a field that will be left untouched. What is the future of VR? Well, we see that it's emotive and immersive education. So come with me to a history class in 2030. This week's lesson is ancient Egypt, the pharaohs, the queens, the tombs, the full tut. Sure, you'd love to go see the pyramids in person and have your students join you. But if you consider the cost of airfare, hotel rooms for the entire class, plus taking 2 weeks off of school for the trip, you quickly realize that this would never be possible. Worse even, if you could go, you couldn't go. Many of Egypt's tombs are closed for repair and definitely off limits to a group of teenagers. There is a solution, and VR solves that problem. In the VR world, you and your class can easily breach Queen Nefertari's burial chamber, touch the hieroglyphics, even scramble atop her sarcophagus. Impossible opportunities in physical reality. You also have a world-class Egyptianologist as your guide. Visiting Egypt, the pyramids, and the tomb doesn't require waiting to 2030. In 2018, Philip Rosell and his team at High Fidelity pulled off this exact virtual field trip. First, 3D laser scanned every inch of Queen Nefertari's tomb. Next, they took thousands of high-resolution photos of the burial chamber. By stitching these photos together, more than 10,000 photos into a single vista, then laying this vista atop a 3D scan map, Rosedale created a stunningly accurate virtual tomb. Next, he gave a classroom full of kids HTC's Vive VR headsets. Because High Fidelity is a social VR platform, multiple people can share the same virtual reality space at the same time. The entire class was able to explore the tomb together. In total, their fully immersive trip to Egypt required zero travel time and zero travel expenses. VR will not only cover traditional educational content, but also expand into emotional education. Jeremy Baylorson, founding director of Stanford's Virtual Human Interaction Lab, has spent 2 decades exploring VR's ability to produce real behavioral changes. He's developing first-person VR experiences of racism, sexism, and other forms of discrimination. For example, experience what it would be like to be an elderly, homeless African-American woman living on the streets of Baltimore produces real change. A significant shift in empathy and understanding when you're really in somebody else's shoes. Virtual reality is not a media experience, explains Baylorson. When it's done well, it's an actual experience. In general, our findings show that VR causes more behavioral changes, causes more engagement, causes more influence than any other type of traditional media. Nor is empathy the only emotion VR appears capable of training. In research conducted by USC psychologist Skip Rizzo, he has considerable success using virtual realities to treat PTSD soldiers. Other scientists have extended this to a full range of anxiety disorders. VR, especially when combined with AI, has the potential to facilitate top-shelf traditional education, plus all the empathy and emotional skill that traditional education has long been lacking. When AI and VR converge with wireless 5G networks, our global education problems moves from nearly impossible challenge of finding teachers and funding schools for hundreds of millions in need to a much more manageable puzzle of building a fantastic digital education system. The educational possibilities are available to millions worldwide for free to anyone with a headset. It's quality and quantity on demand. In the workplace, VR will serve as efficient trainers for new employees. Already 10,000 of Walmart's 1.2 million employees have taken VR-based skills management tests. Learning modules that once took 35 to 45 minutes to complete now only take 3 to 5 minutes. The company plans to train 1 million employees using the Oculus VR headset by the end of this year. The upfront cost of the VR headsets will ultimately be recovered in labor efficiencies. But we must think in this way: multiple worlds, multiple economies. We no longer live only in one place. We will have a real-world persona and an online persona. This delocalized existence is only going to expand. With the rise of augmented reality and virtual reality, we're introducing more layers to this equation. You'll have an avatar for work and an avatar for play, and all these versions of ourselves are opportunities for new businesses. Consider the multi-million-dollar economy that sprung up around the first virtual world, Second Life. People were paying other people to design digital clothes and digital houses for their digital avatars. Every time we add a new layer of digital strata, we're also adding an entire economy built upon that layer, meaning we are now conducting our business in multiple worlds at once. The possible uses of VR is only left to our imagination, and we've yet just begun to scratch that surface. As a Christ follower, just think about the possibilities that we would have to walk where Jesus walked and never leave our house, to stand on top of Mount Sinai where Moses received the 10 Commandments, and to travel the same route that the Apostle Paul traveled. There are unlimited possibilities as we continue to use exponential technologies to build God's kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. The season of harvest has just begun. And Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 tells us, "For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven." And that's a wrap for today's question. Join us again next Futuristic Friday as we look at flying cars and aerial ride-sharing on our Ask Gramps episode. Our next trek will be Meditation Monday, where we will help you to reflect on what is most important in life. So encourage your friends and family to join us, and then come along with us on Monday for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. If you'd like to listen to any of the past 1,462 daily treks, or read the associated journals, they are all available at wisdom-trek.com. And I encourage you to subscribe to Wisdom Trek on your favorite podcast player so that each day will be downloaded to you automatically. And thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, your mentor, but most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through the Wisdom Trek podcast and journal each day. And as we take this trek of life, together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you on Monday.